This conference will now be recorded.
Guys, we forgot to record the session. Yeah, the Spring core module to design a standard application. In Spring IOC content, we are not responsible to create the object. I told you that in the Spring, which is responsible to create the object. IOC container responsible to create the objects, right? We can start the content on how many ways? Two ways. One is application context and what the bean fact, right? Yes, we can start the content how many ways? Two ways. One is application context. Second one is what? Bean fact, right? Exactly. Okay, steps to design the first application. First Spring application. Take the bean classes. What are the bean classes you want? Just take the bean classes and configure the bean class in the Spring configuration file. Sir, why we are configuring the bean class in the Spring configuration file means because here we are not creating objects. The object creation responsibility is what a container, right? Exactly. When I write the first application, you get the clarity. Take the bean classes, configure the bean class in the Spring configuration file, and a client code, start the container and access the object, right? Just start the container and what? Access the objects, right? Exactly. Just to do the practical, so you're going for the ID. Can you please open that ID? I hope you know how to use ID. Just workspace you can select. So browse the workspace, new workspace. Let me select. Go for local disk D. In your system, you can select wherever you need. In local disk D, let me create the application a new folder. So Spring 7 a.m. apps, something like this. Okay, so here we need to select the folder. This folder you can select local disk D Spring 7 a.m. apps. Just you can select the folder, launch the Eclipse ID. Launch the Eclipse ID, right? Exactly. Because I told you clearly, first step is what? Create the bean classes. This is a step one. And step two is what? Configure the bean class in the bean configuration file. Step three is what? Start the container, right? Start the container. Guys, this is like bean classes. uh, Bean classes. Assume like, let me take the bean classes. Basically like take the class, which class here? EMP class, which contains some properties here. EMP class which contains some properties, and you can take one more bean class here, and a class, okay, student class, student class which contains some logics here, right? Yeah, here also contains some logics. So total how many bean classes we are taking? Total two bean classes. One is employee class and one is a student class, right? Exactly. Because let me implement up to that. Okay, first let me implement up to that. Just you can create the project. So let me use the Maven after few days, after some few applications. Initially, let me build for the jar files for the jar files I need. Okay, good. That's what guys here. By default, Eclipse side is open JWE mode. So dynamic web project, TJB projects, message driven bean session beans like this. This is by default which mode? JWE mode. By seeing these files, you need to understand this is my JWE mode Eclipse ID. But for me, Java mode is enough. Yeah, that's what I know. Click on plus operator. Java mode is good enough. Just click on open. Very good. So create Java project. So create first time it's asking like go to the file menu, click on the new Java project. You need to select Java project. The project name is what? Spring. Okay, Spring Core example. Spring Core app. Spring Core app, just click on what? Next button. So click on what? Next, click on, yeah. Module version, you can select the stable version, guys. Java SE 11 or 17. 7 is also fine. Java SE 8. 8 is a stable version or 11 is a stable version you can take. 8 or 11. Just click on the next. Just click on the finish, right? So don't create the modules not required. Good. You can see here, this is a Spring Core apps. So there we can find only SRC folder. There you can find only what? SRC folder, right? Exactly. Guys, what the first step? Tell me. Guys, what the first step? Take create the bean classes, right? Take the bean classes. Create the bean classes means what? Under the SRC folder, right click, new. I want take the class. Normal Java class, sir. Normal Java class. Take the this, today I didn't use any setters and getters and all. Just I'm declaring normal core Java class. That's it. So package name is what? Com.ecs.beans class I can take. There we can give the class name is what? Employee class. Observe carefully. Just I'm creating one normal project and I'm just making the employee class, right? That's it. Click on finish. emp.java file is ready. Can you please increase the font size? Windows preferences. Windows preferences directly can type the font here. You'll get the colors and fonts. Here we can find the basic font. In the basic font, you can get the text font here. In the text font, you need to change. Double click on this text font. Bold italic. Can you please select the 14 or 16? Apply and what? Close, right? Oh. Guys, otherwise some directly can type the control plus plus. Control plus plus will work. It's not a problem. You get the point, right? Control plus plus will work. Come on. That's it. So I have the employee class. I have the employee class. Employee class, let me take one constructor. So to understand that object, when the object is created, this constructor got executed, right? If an object is created, constructor got executed. That is out control space. This is employee class. And this out control space. This is employee class constructor. Employee EMP constructor, right? Exactly. This is EMP constructor. And you can take one name also here, one method, void wish method you can take. Void wish method, public void wish method. In the wish method, yeah, public void wish method, guys, what you can write the message here? This out control space. Good morning, employees. Good morning, employees, right? Exactly. Just I took the one employee class. Tell me, one employee class which contains one constructor and what? One method, right? Just it contains one constructor and what? One method. That's it. The configuration of the bean class is completed. This is a bean class configuration is completed. Take the bean class are completed. After taking the bean class, what we have to do? We need to configure the bean class in what? Bean configuration file, right? This is important. This is like configuration file. Okay, configuration file, right? Exactly. This is like configuration file, right? Yes. I need to configure this bean into the bean configuration file. Yes or no? Yes. I need to configure bean into the bean configuration file, right? Exactly. Just tell me how to configure the bean configuration file means XML code we have, right? I told you clearly in last class. How many ways you can configure the how many configurations in Spring applications? How many types of configurations? There are.
Three
Tell
types.
me as the Spring supports like three types of configurations. Spring supports how many types of configurations? Three types of what? Three types of configurations. What are three types of configuration? Number one. What is number one here?
XML.
XML.
XML configuration.
XML based configuration. The second one is what? Java.
Annotations.
Uh, exactly. Annotations. Annotation based configuration. Okay. Third one is what?
Java
Java
based
based.
configuration.
Annotation based configuration. Next one is what? Java based. Okay. Configuration, right? Exactly. Okay. Total we have how many types of configurations? Three types of configurations. XML based configuration, annotation based configuration, and what? Java based configuration. In this example, what we are using? Yes, this example we are using XML based configuration, right? Exactly. That's what, guys. Under the SRC folder, we need to create one under the SRC folder, source folder you can take. Under SRC folder new, let me take one normal file because I want take XML file, right? That's what directly right click on SRC new, right click on SRC folder. Okay, right click on SRC folder new. Let me take the normal file. Can you please save the file with the XML .xml extension here? Take the new normal file. Just you can take the. Can I take any name? No problem. Beans.xml file I am taking here. Beans.xml file, right? Exactly. So that is second step. What is second step here? What is second step here? We need to configure the configure the bean classes in bean class in what configuration file here. Okay, good. So create the XML file in src folder. Save the file with any name, no problem. Save the file with any name, right? Any fixed name or any name you can use. Create the XML file in src folder, guys. Save the file with what? Any name, right? Exactly. Because here we need to write the tag for that. Because here you can take the root tag for the beans is the beans.xml file. For the beans.xml file, the root tag is what a beans. That's what the root tag for this one here, beans, right? Exactly. Just to perform the XML, so XML we have the tag based programming, right? So XML tag will be validated using like some parsers. As in XML, we write the tags. The tags will be validated. Okay, the tags will be validated using what? Tell me, the tags will be validated using what? Some parsers, right? The tags will be validated using what? Some parsers. So some different frameworks are using different parsers here. Spring using the parser like the Spring using the parser like Sax parser. That's what the parser name Spring uses. Spring using which parser means Sax parser, right? Exactly. Guys, let me add some beans go piece there. Yeah, XML data. Okay, just you can copy that XML data. Just you can close it, close the bean tag, right? That's it. This XSD is here. This XSD is based on this XSD is only the validation will be performed basically. Based on this XSD is what? Based on this XSD, the validations will be performed. Okay, fine. Just you can make the 1 second here. Just you can take that file. Just you can make the data. Fine. Okay, just you can close the bean tag. Just that the XSD copy. Just copy from the Google. We are not using any XML code these days. We are not using any XML data these days. Enough. Yes, this is a beans tag. The beans tag is root tag. This is XSD information. Uh, based on this XSDs, yes, based on what? Even this context also not required because we are not using any context information here. Hmm. We need to close. Yeah, even context is also just beans tag is enough. That's what beans is good enough. Beans is good enough. Yeah. So beans dot xsd. So based on this xsd, internally the validations will be performed. Okay. Good. The root tag is what? That's what is the root tag for the beans. Beans is the beans is the root tag, right? Yeah. Beans is the root tag. Now you need to configure what this emp bean. To configure this emp bean, we have the tag like a bean tag. We need to take what a bean tag. Bean, you can take the self closing, because bean contains reference variable, right? Can you please make the bean id? Because bean id is what a emp. Okay, this is nothing but what a reference variable. Okay, this is nothing but what reference variable, right? And you can take the bean class. But the bean class, we need to give the fully qualified name of the bean class. Com dot tcs dot what beans data which class here? Emp class, right? That's it. Just to configure this bean class, just beans is a root tag is there, and we have the bean tag is there. Bean id equal to what emp. Bean class is what com dot tcs data beans dot emp, right? Guys, beans dot emp or not? That's it, Emma. So the second step is done. Guys, what the second step tell me? We configured the bean classes into bean configuration file, right? Here we need to configure. That's or no, we configured or not. That's it, Emma. We configured the bean files into what? Bean configuration file, right? Bean ID is there, bean class is there. That's it. Is that clear now? Good. The second step is done, Emma. Guys, what the first step tell me here? Write the bean classes. Second step is what? Configure the bean class in the bean configuration file. Okay. Thus, how many beans you taken? Those all the beans we need to configure in the bean configuration file like this. Okay, good. Guess once it is done, then we need to start the container, right? Third step. Third step is what we need to start the container. If you start the container, then what happen here? Can you please start the container? Client code. This is the client code we need to do. If you talk over the client code, then this is the client code. This is what client code, right? Okay, fine. Let me write the client code. Yeah, let me write the client code, right? Okay, fine. Good. Guys, here the client code means what? Just you can take the class test client. The test client, just you can take the just a test client. You can take the main method. In the main method, just you can start the container here. Guys, main method. What we need to do here? Start the container, right? Start the start the container. That's it. Very clear now. We need to start the container, right? We need to start the container. That's all. Only three steps. Just we take the bean classes, configure the bean classes in what a bean configuration file, then simply can start the container, right? When we start the container. That's it. Then come to the application. Yes. Then you can go for the client code. Client code. Let me take the separate package name here. New. I want take the okay separate class here. So the package name is a com.tcs dot. Can I take the client, right? Check this package name. Make sure that we are making the different files in the different packages. Don't put everything in under the single package. I placed the emp.java under which package? Beans package, emp.java. Next one is what a client package. In the client package, I'm placing what a test client, right? Test client, just click on the main method because client code required the main, right? Yes, just click on the finish. That's it. Because here nothing. Just first step is what you need to start the container. Start the container. To start the container, tell me here, I need to start the container, right? Yeah, to start the container, let me go with the application context. Yes, how to start the container? Tell me, please mute it. Manisha, yeah, application context, guys. But application context is a Spring information, right? Yes, application context is what Spring information, right? That's what we need to take the jar files of the Spring or not, guys. We need to take the jar files of what jar files of the Spring, right? Exactly. That's because application context is what a predefined support of Springer. That's why you need to take the jar file, right? Exactly. Let's download the Spring jar files, Spring jars. Okay. So to download the Spring jars, I'll give the link. I'll give the link. Just you can take that link. Spring jars download. Okay. First to few example. Let me download the jar file. Let me build for the jar file. Later, I'll use the Maven project. I will use what? Maven project, right? Exactly. Spring jars download, Spring IO, Spring jar download, Spring IO. This is like JFrog is there. Repo.spring IO dot UI. There we can see directly artifacts are there, builds are there, fine. But directly you'll get that Spring. Yeah, better to go for the Spring IO is there. 1 second. Features of Spring Framework, Spring Initializer is there, fine. So learn about the data here. Spring jar files download, Spring dot what? Mm. Guys, see, you directly can click on what this download button is there. Otherwise, no, official website is there, official link. Sometimes it happens. Where's the official link? Yeah, Spring jar file download, right? Okay, maybe I can find the link here. Yeah, this is the link. Repo.ui.native something like Spring Framework. Otherwise, something like this is a link for that. Okay, good. See, guys, this is a link. Repo.spring.io. Repo.spring.io 5.2.2 releases. JFrog. This is the and right. Yeah, there's something like if you select the Spring Framework up to the Spring Framework, org.spring framework. Yes, you will get there you can find the Spring AOP Spring and all. Just you can go for the Spring. Then if you go for the Spring, yeah, you'll get the Spring versions. Yeah, these are all the versions about the Spring. Which version of jar you need, just you can download that version. The present version of Spring is from Spring 5.x, right? Yeah, let me download the latest version only, 5.1.16 or 5.1.20 like this. Okay, can please download the 5.1.20. There you can find the folder like three folders we get: dist folder, docs folder, schema folder. Okay, out of this folder, can you please store what dist folder? Releases hyphen dist data zip file. Dist dot what zip file, right? So can you please download the dist folder? If you download the dist folder, yeah, it's almost all some MB file is there. You can please download the dist folder. At the point, right? Yeah, I'll share you that link. This is the link for that to download the. You need to go for the. We need to download that jar file, because to start the container we require what application context. But application context is what application context related to the Spring, right? If application context is related to the Spring, then we need to go with what we need to download the jar, right? Exactly. But this is a link for that 5.2.10 something like that. So Spring.5.2.2 releases dist.zip folder you can download. Extract the zip file. Extract the zip file. Once if you extract the zip file, so then you'll get the downloads and the proprietary file, something like that. You got the point, right? Yes. Yes, in my system, I downloaded the zip file. In the downloads folder is there. Just you can go for the Spring jars here. So Spring jars here. There is a Spring jars here. Yeah. Yeah, this is a Spring framework for 1.1.5.1.16 something like that. Above fifth version, 5.1.1620 something. You can take anything, not a problem. So once if it is extracted, you'll get the you'll get the files like yeah, this is the Spring framework 5.1.6 release. So once if you open this folder, you'll get the libs folder. Because once if you extract the file, you'll get the Spring framework 5.1.6 like this. You can extract that file, once if you extract this, once if you open this file, you'll get the libs folder. There you can see all the jar files: Spring AOP jar, Spring Beans jar, context jar, okay, container jar, support jar. You get the jar files, we need to build for these jar files basically. Is it clear now? We need to build for the jar, right? Exactly. Okay, slowly step by step you can do. First step we configured like bean class. Second step is what sorry, we take the bean class. First step we configure the bean class in the bean configuration file. Third step is what to start the client code, right? To start the write the client code, we require the to start the client code. What we need? Tell me, yaar. Application context required, but application context belongs to the Spring. That's what we need to build for the predefined jars, right? That's what, Can you please build for the jar files, Right click on the project, right click on the project, build path. Tell me, configure build path. Build path and what? Configure build path. Build path, configure build path. You can go for the libraries. In the libraries, you need to select the class path. Yes, libraries, class path jar files. Add external jars. Go on, select the jar files. Downloads. Tell me, downloads the jar files you need to select. Downloads the Spring, Spring 1. 5.1.6 be downloaded, right? Yes, let me open that folder. Spring Framework 5.1.6. There you can find the libs folder. There you can select the only Spring, beans and core is enough. But let me select all the jars. Not required because this is not our approach, right? Anyhow, we will use the Maven project to take the jars, right? That's what we will use. We will use this approach or Maven approach. We will use Maven approach, right? Okay, as of now, just select the jar file. That's fine. Because once if you select the jar file, now control space, now you will get what application context. Now see, application context you are getting or not? Exactly. Okay, this is a Spring container actually. Application context to context equal to what? Application context equal to what? New XML, new class path, yeah, new class path, XML application context. Because application context is a root interface which contains this is implementation class. Application context equal to new class path XML application context. This is the implementation class of what application context, right? Okay. Then you can give the configuration file. Bean, what the configuration file you taken, that name you need to give here, beans.xml file. Because here, what is the name of the bean file? That bean file we have to give here, right? That's it. Start the container. Container started. Only one. This line will start the container. Application context equal to new class path XML application context, right? New class path XML application context beans.xml, right? Exactly. Because the container started. Once the container started, then what happened? Tell me. If the container started, the container goes to bean configuration file immediately. This is the container starting. Container goes to what? Beans.xml file. In the beans.xml file, which bean we configured? EMP bean, right? Yes, bean.xml file, which bean is configured? EMP bean is configured, right? This bean is automatically instantiated. Automatically instantiated. If it is really instantiated, means what happened here? Instantiation means object creation, right? If really object is created, means this construct executed or not? Tell me, are this constructor executed or not executed? The constructor is what? Execute, right? Exactly. So to understand that point, just let me run this code. If you run this code, see, simply employee constructor executing. Sir, no, yaar. Are we creating object or container is creating object now? Guys, we got the console output, right? What's the output here? Employee colon constructor, right? Exactly. Okay, so you got the point here. When we start the container immediately goes to the bean configuration file. In the bean configuration file, what are the beans you configured? Those beans is all automatically instantiated. So employee bean is instantiated, which is having the reference variable is what, EMP is a reference variable, right? Exactly. I simply can run this code. We got the output is employee constructor or not. That's it, Yeah. Now the bean is created object. Which object is there? Tell me. Bean is created which object? Employee object, right? Bean is created employee object, but I want that bean object. The start the container means what happened here? Container started and it is creating all the beans, right? The beans are readily available with what? Application container. Available with the container. Then what we have to do? We have to get the bean, right? Let's get the bean object. Get the bean object, guys. Got the point, right? So the bean objects are present with what? Container, right? We need to get that bean object. What is the container name? As what is the container name? Context is a container name, right? Context is a container name. Context dot a container. Can you please give me the bean? Get bean method. Then we need to ask the container. Container, can you please give me the bean? Context dot get bean. And which bean you want? EMP bean. That's it. Yes, which bean we need a employee bean, right? Exactly. That's what, guys. But get bean return type is what you can see. The get bean method return type is what? Object class. Get bean method return type is object class. but you want object class or employee bean? You want employee bean, right? That's what you need to typecast which class here? Employee class, right? Employee, something like, no, you can take the emp, right? That's it. Yes or no? Exactly. Guys, when you start the container, container goes to beans.xml file. Container goes to beans.xml file. In the beans.xml file, what are the beans are configured? Those beans automatically instantiated and what are initialized. Are you clear, right? That's the point, Amma. After starting the container, we have to get the bean object, because where is your bean objects? Your bean objects are present with the container, right? Yes, your bean objects are present with what? Container. Get the, yeah, get the data from the container, right? Yeah, container. But the container name here? Context. Guys, first application very important. So you need to understand the flow. Okay, context dot what get bean method, we are passing which object here? Emp bean I want. But why I am typecasting means, because get bean method return type is what? Object class. Get bean return type is object class. That's what you need to typecast which class, Amma? Employee class, right? Exactly. Then simply can call employee dot what? Which method, right? That's it. Simply can run this code. Guys, right click here, run as a Java application. That is fine. Otherwise, directly here run button is there. This is also working fine. See guys, before stars, this is a stars I'm printing. Before stars, container started, objects are created. After stars, you are getting the object. Guys, you are just, this line is creating object, this line is getting the object from the container. The terminal is important here. This line is creating
Get
object, just are getting the object from the
getting
container. Just getting the object from what? Just getting the object from what? Container, right? Guys, just getting the object from what? Container or not? Is
Yes,
it
sir.
clear now? Exact. Getting the object from the container, guys. That's it. Guys, can you? Everyone is understood this example, right? Guys, can you please configure one more bean so that you'll get some more clarity? First of all, you need to create the bean class, right? Yodita, are you clear? Rahel, Praveen, Samir, Akshada, clear, right? Can I create one more bean?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Uh, Srivalli, can you create one more bean? Yeah, to create one more
Yes,
bean here,
yes.
right click here. How to tell me? Anyone please guide me? I click on the beans, new. I want to take the class. The class name, can I take the student class? Just click on the finish. Here, can I take the student class constructor? Student class constructor, saying that this is the student constructor, right? This is like, student constructor. I'm saying that, right? Exactly. After that, public student class is the student constructor. I'm saying that's it. Then you can take the some info method. Public void, you can take one method, right? Public void info method. So here just you can give the message, students are good. Students are what? Good. Students are good, right? Yes. Is that clear now? Because bean configuration is bean declaration is completed. What is the second step? Tell me, guys. What is the second step? Tell me. We need to configure the bean in what? Bean configuration file. Very simple, right? How it will be? Just you can take the bean tag. Just a self closing you can take. Self closing you can take. You can take the bean ID. Bean ID. Bean ID can take the student. Then you can take the bean class. What the bean class here? Com dot tcs dot beans dot. The class is what, am student, right? Exactly. Bean configuration is done now. Yes, bean configuration is done. Just we take the bean class and we configure the bean class in what? Bean configuration file, right? Exactly.
Hello.
Then go to the client code. Because in the client code, before stars, just I'm starting the container, right? Now container goes to beans.xml file. Container will create the object of how many beans now?
Two.
Guys,
Two
two
beans.
beans, two beans, right? Just you can run this code now. See the output here, emp constructor and student constructor execute or not? First emp configured, next student is configured, right? Exactly. Very clear now. Next one is what? Student bean is ready, object is ready. You can ask the container can please give me the that bean object, right? How it will be? Context dot what? Get bean method. Context dot get bean here we need to take the, what you can say, which bean you want to ask? Student bean, right? Give the reference variable student bean. That's context dot get bean. Here what the bean name here? Tell me. Student bean, right? Exactly. Yes, previously get bean method return type is what? Object class. We are typecasting to employee class. You can do code like this. It's not a problem. But otherwise, get bean having one more approach. Instead of doing the type conversion process, guys. Instead of doing the type conversion process, here simply can call directly student dot class. Student dot class representation. That's it, Amma. Directly we're taking the student, right? Student. That's it. Because when compared to the typecasting process, giving just dot class file name, which is recommended process. Context dot get bin, which bin here? Student bin, then student dot class here. Then we no need to do the typecasting. No, sir, I don't want to give the dot class like this. Then you can go for what? A typecasting process. That is up to you. Is it clear, right? Yeah. Then come something like, we need to call the student data. Which method, guys, here? Info method. That's it. Because this is the, here we are doing the typecasting process here. This line we are not doing the typecasting process. Just you are representing the student data class, right? Exactly. You simply can run this code. See the output here. EMP constructor and student constructor. Good morning employees and students are good, right? Good morning employees and what are students are good. Guys, are it clear now? Three steps are clear.
Yes.
What the first step? Tell me. Create the bean class. I hope you understood how to download the jar source, right? You download the jar file. I place the link here. Just you can download the jar file. This is emp.java file. emp.java first bean, and second bean is what? The student.java file. This is second bean. And the third file is what? Configuration file, beans.xml file. Just here we configure the two beans. This is like, beans dot what? XML, right? Exactly. And the third one is what? A client code, the test client.java. Test client.java, right? That's it. Beans.xml file. But you taken the config.xml means here you can give the config.xml. So XML file name what you taken, just you can give the name here. This line will create the all objects. After creation of object, ask the container can please give me the emp bean get bean method. Here you can typecast it because get bean return type is object class. One way. Another way is what? Context.get bean of student dot class I can use, right? Exactly. Okay, this is the first application. Any questions? Tell me. Spring is easier. Don't make it as a complex. Huh? The way of explanation is important. Do you feel any difficulties in this example? Spring example. First example. Tell me.
No, it's good.
No, sir.
Spring Boot, right?
Sir, in
Any difficult?
configuration file,
Hmm.
uh, first four lines will be common for it will
Yeah,
be
this is
common
called
as
XSD, which contains information about these tags and these attributes. You got the point, right? These tags will be validated. These tags will be validated using this XSD informations. And this ID attribute, class attribute information will be present in the this URIs, this XSI informations. Okay. Don't think
Hello.
too much about this line. This is just it contains information about the XML tag informations and attribute informations. Okay.
Hello.
That schema validations. Yeah. Tell me.
Sir, bin ID name is any given or other.
Uh,
Um,
what
uh,
is the bean ID? It is, see guys, when you have that kind of question, just place the cursor here in the ID. It's saying that, read the message once. The unique identifier for a bean. It's a reference variable,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's a reference variable. Reference variable name can be anything or any fixed name.
It,
Guess any name, right?
It can
That's
be
fine.
anything. It can be anything.
Hmm. Just you are configuring the employee class. Then container, can you please create the object of employee class? Then container is asking for your object what is the reference variable you want. In core Java, every object contains reference, right? Like that, it is asking what is the reference you want. What is the reference you want? EMP reference. That is ID. Okay.
Well, we have separate ID for a Spring, right? STS. So why we are not using the STS directly?
STS, yeah, we'll use STS as part of Spring MVC module, and we'll use IntelliJ as part of Spring Data JPA concepts and all. We will touch with all IDs. We will see all the IDs. First, we will start with Eclipse ID. Everyone is familiar with Eclipse ID. Then I'll start with STS ID. After that, I'll start with IntelliJ ID. After that, I'll start with the VSE ID also, Visual Studio Code. Good. Because the new students, when you see the STS ID, IntelliJ ID, they feel like, it's a new ID, new concept. They feel like, some what difficulties. That's what slowly we'll start with Eclipse ID, then we'll shift to the STS ID, then we'll shift to the what IntelliJ ID and all. And even you'll create the project Spring Initializer, Spring IO. Otherwise, they're also they're directly supporting like the Spring Initializer, right? We will do that one only because we need to take the dependencies and all. We can select the dependencies and all. Okay. So STS. So in general, I use STS only. So this is STS Spring Toolsuit 4 is there, which is having a Lombok dependency. We'll use the Lombok for that.
Quick
Okay.
question.
Tell me here.
So we are not using any Maven or something, right? We are directly creating a class
That's
directly in the IntelliJ.
yeah. See, the configurations are three types, right? XML, annotation, Java based. In the same way, first we are doing XML, then we are doing with what Java based, sorry, annotation based, then Java based configuration, right? Same way before Maven, what we are doing, we are build for the jar files, right? One
Yep.
or two applications let me build for the jar files, then I'll use
Okay.
the Maven. After that, I'll use the Gradle. In a
Okay.
build tools, we have the Gradle also, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
I'll use the Gradle also. Step by step process will move.
Got it. Got it.
Directly, if I use Maven, some students thinking what is a Maven. Again, I need to give them more explanation about the Maven and artifact ID, group ID. These are all the points. But once if they know the Spring, some applications, they feel like Spring is easy. In that mood, whatever you will teach, it will be working, right?
Yes.
that's, that's just teaching. If I start directly STS ID, directly Maven means what? The students think like Spring is very difficult. But today, just I downloaded the jars. I built for the jars. I'm making the bean class and configuration file. Application working good. Code is simple, right? Like we'll move
Yeah.
forward.
Got it.
Yeah, yeah.
In
So
real time, are they using still this approach or just
no. So
just
we,
curious.
we we are not at all using this approach. We are using all about the Spring Boot applications with the application.aml files. Maven
Yeah.
projects.
Got it.
We are
Yes.
using
Yes.
that approach
Perfect.
only.
Okay.
So we need to go for 0 to 100%, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. I understand.
that's what.
Sure. Sure.
But you understood this is the initial classes, so this is the approach you have to follow, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yes, exactly. Use tomorrow I'll make that example, Yudhita. Tomorrow, today you understood first application, right? Tomorrow I'll make that example with the loose coupling example. You are saying that loose coupling, right? Yeah. Today you understood the first application. Execute the first application.